Thank you for joining me for another episode of Manifest. Once again, this is a platform where we're going to just highlight the voices of Black men who stutter and kind of give them a bit of spotlight to hear about their journey and where they've come from so far, getting some insight into their life, perspective, and kind of where they are now. With me today, I have Douglas Scott. Hey, Doug. How are you?
I am doing great, Aidan. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks so much for joining me today on another episode here. So, Doug, let the viewers get a chance to get to know you a bit. Can you tell us a bit about your studying journey and where you are now?
Okay. First I'll start with just a little brief intro. I am Douglas Scott. I'm from Houston, Texas. I have been married for about 38 years. I have two adult sons, um, ages 30 and 32. Um, I started in dealing with or finding more of the community when it comes to stuttering directly after college, primarily. At that time, I had a very severe stutter that was controlling my life, basically. And of course, fresh out of college, graduating, trying to find a job and stuff, all of those stresses and pressures that one has when they are trying to start their life and trying to get a job. So you're going through the job interview process and all of that stuff. And I did not have the tools to deal with all of that. So I tried to find some speech therapy at that time. Of course, I had had some speech therapy earlier when I was a kid, but this was ancient years ago. And so the therapy at that time was not very good at all. But after college, 1982, when I graduated from college from the University of Texas at Austin, I went about trying to find a job, and it was very, very difficult. So
Yeah.
much so that um, I could barely get my name out, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
Um, and it was an extreme struggle.
Yeah.
And so found some speech therapy. At that time, it was a technique called breath stream flow. You might not have heard of it because it's so old. And so I found that it was something. And then I met a few other people. And with those other people, we started a little group, a support group, a self-help support group for people who stutter. And that was before we found the NSP at that time. It was called the National Stuttering Project. So this was about a year or two prior to finding that group. Once we found that group, we joined them and became a chapter. Um, and then that sort of was the real efforts that I embarked on to sort of finally get control of my stutter instead of letting my stuttering control every aspect of my life.
Yeah.
Long story short, with the help and the support and the encouragement and the empowerment and learning from so many people involved in the NSP, NSA, National Stuttering Association,
Yeah.
I finally began to unravel, some of the things, some of the shame, some of the embarrassment, some of the struggle, and all of that. Um, Became involved in the organization at various levels. Um, and then two things happened basically that
Yeah.
really made a change for me. Number one, through the help of the NSP, being involved, going to the annual conferences, going through the various chapter meetings, hearing from very, very intelligent, powerful, impactful people who stutter, and seeing their lives were very successful, normal, and all of that. Um, I finally began to realize that my path forward was not trying to be a fluent person.
Yeah.
That my path forward was to try to accept exactly who I am, which is a person that stutters.
Yeah.
That stuttering is only a part of me, it's not the whole of me. Once that happened, once I finally, truly decided to accept that, that's when I really started to make some progress.
Hmm.
The other thing happened too as well, because I knew what was going on when I stuttered, and I knew that I needed some tools.
Yeah.
So I went about trying to find a speech therapy program that would give me some tools and give me some more insight into what is going on with me individually when I stutter.
Yeah.
And so I sought out some fluency shaping therapy
Hmm.
that was taught by a guy who stutters himself and actually uses the technique and the fluency shaping therapy that he teaches and instructs.
Yeah.
And for my personality and where I was and what was going on with me, that was what made a major difference, along with the support of the NSA. So those two things together, NSA, self-help support, plus fluency shaping tools and techniques together helped me to address the things that I needed to address in order to become a more effective communicator.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really powerful to hear about how you kind of found this, I guess, formula you would say to kind of find some success in your life with your stutter, like your own personal definition of success in this case. I wanted to kind of dig a bit deeper here and kind of chat a bit about like that acceptance piece, as you said, with the help of the National Stuttering Association. You were kind of talking a bit about that, just finding community, finding support. First question actually is, was the NSA your first time, like your the small group that you first created in Texas, was that your first time meeting other people who stuttered?
No, I had met one or two other people who stuttered when I was in high school.
Hmm.
Also, I came from a family where stuttering was common, and
Mm.
it was accepted as just what it was. It's just is a person that stutters.
Hmm.
So I had a grandmother who stuttered.
Yeah.
She had one son who stuttered very, very severely.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I stuttered. And then one of my uncle's sons stuttered a little bit.
Yeah.
I have a sister who was fluent. My mom was fluent. My dad was fluent. And then I had my sister who was fluent had a son who stuttered a little bit as well. So
Yeah.
stuttering was sort of not treated as odd or
Okay.
different, or it wasn't treated any special way at all, actually. And I'm not sure if that was a good thing or a bad thing. Well,
Yep.
actually, in hindsight, I'm sure I am convinced that that was a good thing, that it was just, treated as, light
Yeah.
stutters. That's it.
Yeah. How do you think that having that mold and influence shaped when you yourself started your own family? For example, that whole acceptance piece, how did that shape into being a father figure and a husband?
Very much so. Again, as with almost all of us who stutter in the beginning and early in our journey, stuttering controls our lives. It
Yeah,
controls pretty much everything about our lives.
yeah,
It's almost always present in our mind and our thinking from the time that we get up in the morning to the time that we go to bed at night.
yeah,
A lot of us, vast majority of us, I have not met someone where it was the opposite, who was early in their journey
yeah.
that all they thought about was stuttering
Hmm.
because your speech is so much a part of you. When you leave your house, you have to talk to somebody.
Yeah,
Somebody's going to, say, hello to you. Someone is going to, in your work and whatever, you don't have to, somebody's going to ask you that dreaded thing, what is your name? Oh God, no,
yeah,
anything but my name. So all of those things. So um, that's the thing, is that it controlled every aspect of my life. Okay. And with that, you begin to think about, do I want to be a parent?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't think about it in the terms that quote unquote people who don't stutter think about it. You just think about all of the normal things you think about being a parent,
Yeah.
being a father, carrying a baseball game and that. But for us, or for me in a way, it was about, okay, how is speech going to relate to this? Am I going to have to, um, deal with a baseball team when my son wants to play baseball? Am I going to have to coach? Oh God, no! I'm going to have to talk to parents. All of these things surrounding speech.
Yeah.
Okay. So as a young person, because I always think far, far ahead in advance, almost everything about, my career, well, how does that relate to my speech? Being a parent, getting married, I'm going to have to say vows. Oh my God, there's no way.
Yeah.
One of the things that I thought about early on in my career, and it's kind of weird, but at early on, usually your parents will pass before you. They would die before you. And one of the big things I thought about, and this is crazy, as an early in my life was, when that happened, I'm going to have to say something because usually one of the kids have to say something, and it was
Yeah.
me and my sister. And I thought about, oh my God, I'm gonna have to go before the church and say
Yeah.
something about my parents. Oh God, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Things like that. So all of those things just was always present, with me.
Yeah. I think all of what you said is very important because communication is just one of the absolute quintessential fundamentals of life. It's something that we all are going to have to do to some regard or degree. And as people who stutter, it can be at the forefront of all our fears, all our consciousness, things in those regards. And I definitely understand. It's funny because as I was hearing you kind of speak and talk. I haven't thought about the whole like funeral piece, like saying words and speaking about that. I've actually thought about like being a parent and like, wanting to attend like soccer games or basketball games and like having to talk to other parents or things in those regards. But hearing about there's like a lot of scenarios that you really have to think about, like, wow, I am going to have to really figure this out and be a communicator at different points in my life, whether I like it or not. And I need to start to accept, being a person who stutters is like the first thing that kind of comes to mind after hearing all that, which is just wonderful, full to hear. I wanted to kind of dig deeper now, Doug, into kind of a bit about your advocacy work with the NSA. Can you tell us a bit more about like your like time with the NSA and support groups and kind of what has that like inspired you to do in the future alongside the NSA?
Absolutely. When I say that the NSA is everything to me,
Yeah,
it is everything to me. When I first went to my first conference in 1986, that was my first conference. It was the very first time that I was in a place where that surrounding, that environment provided me um, the environment that catered to everything I am, all parts of me.
yeah,
Okay. I wasn't the only Black person there, so there was someone else there that was Black, women, men, business people, various types of people. It was the first place when I went into, okay, every aspect of me was satisfied. I felt comfortable. It was home.
yeah,
I wasn't a Black person. I wasn't a male necessarily. I wasn't a business person or whatever, all of the other parts. I was just a person. And every aspect of me was fed when I went to my first conference,
yeah,
because that's the very first time I was in a place where the majority of us stuttered. So it was like, this is my tribe, this is my home.
yeah,
And that made a major impact on my life. Okay. So that started my 40-year long involvement in the stuttering community.
yeah,
And of course, I was active early on. I came in organization and stuff. At that time, there was a guy named John. Albach, who was the executive director, and he was just so awesome. He was my stuttering guru when it comes to don't let stuttering hold you back.
Yeah.
He was that person. Um, I was motivated. I was inspired. I was empowered. All of those wonderful words. Go to the conference. I was on a high like no other, and it got me to understand that I can get to a point where stuttering won't control my life, where
Yeah.
I can, where it would allow me to be who I am. And that started that. So I became heavily involved as a chapter leader. I went back in '87, same thing, inspired, great, wonderful. We met a lot of different people,
Yeah.
and they gave me thoughts and ideas, ambitions, and it finally gave me a sense that I could get to do some of the things that I wanted to be. And one of the things that I always felt inside was that the real Doug inside was a very talkative person.
Yeah.
Even when I was a stutterer, even when I was severe stuttering, I was considered a person that talked a lot. It was just who
Yeah.
I am. I just, stuttered a whole lot and had, really major severe blocks. But inside of me was always what I called at that time a fluent person,
Yeah.
just, yearning to get out, right? So again, I came back to my home chapter and stuff, and we were empowered. We were young. I hadn't gotten married yet,
Yeah.
hadn't had any kids yet. I had a great local support system here in Houston, one of the best in the world, actually. Great people, and many of those people I still talk to, deal with on a daily basis today.
Yeah.
Um, a very long story short, I became very inspired. I'm a business person, so I organize things from a business perspective. And at that time, one of the major things, I'll be quick with this. One of the major things at that time, it was early on before the organization that you see now. It was mostly based in California, but it was a national. It saw itself as a national project at the time,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Long story short, because of some of the things we were talking about and they were saying that they wanted to do, I started thinking. Okay. And so one of the things that I came away with, and it was on the airplane, it was an idea. I'll never forget this because it was like one of those things that you hear, man, I got
Yeah.
this great idea. And the great idea was say, hey, if we are a national organization, let's do what other national organizations do, and let's have our annual meeting at different places throughout the country.
Yeah.
Prior
Groundbreaking.
to that, prior to that, it was always in the state of California. And it was mostly in San Francisco.
Okay. Okay.
So there was a lot of firsts that were started then. So I came home and I, called up some people in my chapter. I had them come over to the house and I had this idea and they all looked at me like I was stupid. I said, guys, we're going to see if we can get the NSA, it still was the NSP at that time, conference here in Houston
Yeah.
during the summer. And everybody said, Douglas, you're crazy. It's too hot. No one would ever come. They don't come to conferences and all of this stuff. So there were a lot of firsts. Okay. So that sort of began my advocacy, my involvement. We did have the conference. I convinced folks in San Francisco that we could do this. We did the first time in a hotel, first time having all of these workshops in a hotel instead of a church or a state university. Um, First time having a live auction. Before we only had the silent auction, so we
Yeah.
started that. First, oh, this was a great idea. First time we had a DJ with music was in 1988 when we had the conference here in Houston. So there were a lot of firsts. There
Yeah.
were a
Yeah.
lot of firsts, and because I was a business person, it was the first time that I said, "Okay, we're going to make this annual meeting, this conference, be one of our major fundraisers. It's going to be a profit maker."
Yeah.
Prior to that, the folks didn't really think about cost and revenues and things like that. We were always needing money. So anyway, so that was a lot of first. Basically, a long story short, this organization gave a lot to me. Okay, and I continue to be inspired. And I continue to have this great desire to serve and to be there for others. It has helped me become who I am, and it enabled me to have a 30-year career for an international steel company. It's German and French owned. I continue to get better and better at com communicating at work and in every aspect of my life. And that person that was always inside of me started to come out more and become more and more comfortable, not only with communicating in general, but with stuttering and being okay with it. Okay. And knowing that it's going to happen, it's going to be there no matter what I do, but being okay with it. Okay. But at the same time, also learning that I can use certain things and I can be okay with that. So, as you know, there's a big sort of discussion in our community about acceptance, what that truly means.
Yeah.
Okay. And to be very clear, I come from the school of you can still accept and still do many different things that may reduce the amount of stuttering that you have or that make you comfortable communicating.
Hmm.
The big thing is to figure out what you need as an individual um, to be who you want to be, to
Yeah.
live your best life, in other words.
Yeah.
And if you are a person that wants to have a podcast or a talk show, do that. Now,
Yeah.
there are many ways to get there, and I'll sort of tell you my sort of idea at the end there of this. But that's basically what I believe is acceptance. You have to accept that you are a person that stutters, but that doesn't mean that you can't not do various things, meditation, yoga, mindfulness, whatever you feel is something that is going to help you be able to present the best of you and be who you want to be. That's what you should do. Um, I'm against illegal drugs as a way to control your stuttering. You know, many of us do. Alcohol, that's another thing that's very problematic. A lot of people who stutter have done those, things in the past just to deal with their stuttering. I wouldn't advise that though. But most anything, So serve as a national level, involved in organizing a conference, as I said, when we came to Houston. So there was some first that was established, there was some standards that was set, served um, as a board member of the NSA. Um, Went to a lot of meetings, met a lot of people all over this country through Stutter. And then I started to evolve in 2016 into the international world. There was a friend of mine named Annie Bradbury who asked me to get involved in the ISA, International Stuttering Association. At first, I was reluctant, uh, but then after about a year and a half. And then after I went to my first conference in 2016 in Finland, I came back and then I went to another conference in Japan
Yeah.
in 2018. I decided, okay, yeah, yeah, um, I can be a part of the ISA. My next evolution in the stuttering community is to be involved internationally. So I joined the board of the ISA as a regular board member. Now I'm the chair of the ISA board. I've gone to several conferences, stuttering uh, conferences internationally, and I enjoy it wholeheartedly. Another thing that was so easy for me to transition into the international world because the company that I worked for was an international company. As I said earlier, it was French and German owned. So I had gone to Germany, I had gone to Europe before, and I had met many people from France, Germany, and elsewhere. And so I was very comfortable in the international world.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Well, Doug, that all sounds absolutely wonderful. As you're kind of going, I was thinking a lot about, like, for me personally, for those who don't know, I've only been in the NSA for maybe like 3 or 4 years now, and all as you were kind of going through the history of the NSA, all that I've been experiencing, I was like, oh my God, Doug is probably like one of like the founders and like creators of like these different ideas and what I experience like now currently, which is just super cool because. As you said, the NSA is like a home. It's like a place where you feel seen, heard, and understood by those around you, and you're just a lot more than what you feel in just the real world too. You can feel just yourself, and that's such a powerful thing. And hearing about your work in the international national community is absolutely wonderful. It's something that I don't know that much about, but clearly, if you're going to places like Japan and how does connection from your job of already being familiar with it, that's absolutely wonderful and great to hear, Doug. Thanks so much for sharing all of that. I wanted to transition now a bit, Doug, into asking. You kind of hinted at this a bit about the acceptance piece, but what message do you have for young Black boys and men who are going through this journey and may feel lost or stuck or hopeless and kind of are trying to find their own path to acceptance?
Very good question. And it's one of those things that's sort of hard to answer, although there are some challenges that we have by being a Black person that stutters. Um, One of the things, and this struck me when I was out of college, when my stutter was more severe, and I went for a job interview, and I was a perfect fit. I had the education behind me from one of the major universities in the country. I looked good. I presented well, and
Yeah,
all of that, and I thought the job was perfect for me. And I was extremely disappointed that I didn't get the job.
yeah.
They called me and they said, "Hey, you were highly regarded, whatever, but we decided to offer to someone else." The first thing that came to my mind as a Black person
Yeah,
was, did I not get the job because I was Black, or did I not get the job because I stuttered?
yeah,
That's one of the biggest difference between us and the majority population,
yeah,
is that as a person that stutters, you don't know exactly why you didn't get the job.
yeah,
And oftentimes our first thought is, it's because I'm Black.
yeah.
Okay. So you never know. You never know it whether generally I don't think people who are white, when they don't get the job, they don't think about, oh, it's because of my race. I
Hmm.
don't think they think that. Okay. But oftentimes, those of us who are Hispanic, Black, Asian, whatever, women, whatever, you may think of other things other than, your stutter. There's something else in there. Fortunately, about 2 years after that job interview, they called me and said, "Hey, this position has come open again, and we would like you to take this position."
Okay.
That was the greatest news in the world, Aiden, because then I realized, great, it wasn't because of my stutter or because I was Black. It was just they decided on someone else, like they do with thousands and thousands of people,
Yeah,
that they did think I was qualified, that they did think I was a good candidate.
yeah,
That was a great thing. That was a great feeling. So, as a Black person who stutters, you don't shy away from the challenges. You are going to have challenges. People are going to see you and they're going to make assumptions, whether you like it or not. Okay. Whether you think it's fair or not, that's not the issue.
yeah.
They will make assumptions. If you're tall, they'll make certain assumptions. If you're short, they'll make certain assumptions. If you're Black, they're going to make certain assumptions.
Yeah,
How you carry yourself, how you speak, they will make certain assumptions.
yeah,
And when you open your mouth or when they ask you, what is your name? Okay. And they hear you. Okay. Anything that deviates from the quote unquote accepted norm, people are going to think about it.
yeah,
Okay. So you need to, recognize that. You need to develop a way to deal with that. But as a Black person, it is going to be harder because there are many things you're going to have to fight.
yeah,
Okay. You're going to have to overcome. And so the thing that I encourage and that I try to convey to all of us, and especially those of us of color, is that you need to know that you are worthy, that what you have to say is important, and that's how you have to carry yourself.
Yeah.
And you need to know, and you need to convince people, and you need to convey to people that you believe in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, they're not going to believe in you.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that is what you have to do as a person who's Black, Hispanic, anything else, is that you have to believe in yourself and you have to understand that you're going to be evaluated either consciously or unconsciously on every aspect of yourself. But carry yourself in a way that you know that you belong. That's one of the things that I learned from my mom mostly was that to feel comfortable wherever you are, whether you're in a home that's $1 million or in a home that's 30,000, feel comfortable wherever you are. And if you feel comfortable, they will feel comfortable with you. Okay. I don't know if we were at the end, but one of the big things that I really, really convey to people who stutter, and
Yeah.
this is all people who stutter, is which is what I've come to do, and which is what I've done all along in my um, stuttering journey, which is why I knew and realized that I needed to learn some techniques and some tools to be able to work on in certain situations. Is I engage all of us who stutter to do a deep self-analysis of yourself.
Yeah.
And I mean very, very deep. And you analyze what is going on with you, mind, body, and soul, when you are in an environment, whatever that environment is, and you feeling uncomfortable, and you are not presenting yourself like you wanted to present yourself, or your stuttering is becomes higher than normal or lower than normal, what is going on? Do a
Yeah.
lot of self-analysis of that. And that will help you figure out what you need to do in order to be more comfortable in a speaking situation,
Yeah.
in all speaking situations, and knowing exactly what happens to you. Do you get anxious? Is your breathing starting to be short? Are you starting to sweat? Where's your mind? Where's your focus? All of these things, do a self-analysis of that.
Yeah.
One of the things that clued me in, and I'll be short real quick, was that in my group here, when we were young, when we first started out here in Houston, we went on a trip together. Man, we used to have great times. We used to party a lot. We used to do happy hour. We go to trips, baseball games, all that. So there were about 10 of us,
Yeah.
and we decided to take a trip down to Puerto Vallarta.
Okay.
Okay. And this was early on. And so this was before I really came to terms with my stuttering. And of course, we got on the plane early that morning. Of course, we was doing some drinking and stuff. So by the time that we landed, I was feeling no pain, let's say.
Yeah.
And then, so we went to the hotel, checked in and stuff. And the other people in my party, they were checking in and whatever, but they found me over in the lobby of this hotel with 4 or 5 total strangers around me.
Yeah.
And I was talking up a storm. I was talking up a storm, which I normally do, but I was fluent as I don't know what.
Yeah.
And they were looking at me, man, Douglas, man, you were just talking and talking and you were so fluent. Da, 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 da. Why? And one of the things that I learned was there were certain things that was happening while I was under the influence of alcohol.
Hmm.
Okay. And I started to analyze those things. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that was something that I noted. Also, early in my life, I am one of those people who stutters that when you get angry, I become extremely fluent.
Hmm.
I've always known that. I call it my superpower. If
Mm.
you make me angry, I will become extremely fluent. If you challenge me, especially if you challenge me because of my stuttering,
Yeah.
I become extremely fluent. I've always known that. But fortunately, early in my life, I learned, a long time ago, Douglas, you cannot go through your life being an angry drunk in
Yeah.
order to not stutter.
Yeah.
That just is not going to work. But some of the things that happens when I'm become angry, or some of the things that happens if I've had, several cocktails, okay, I started to think about that.
Yeah.
And so those are some of the things that I use today when I'm doing presentations, when I'm speaking to you or to anybody, when I go to a party, go to gatherings, whatever, I use some of those tools because some of those tools are a part of fluency shaping.
Yeah, yeah,
Breathing control is an extremely important deal. Um, and there's some other things I use. I can go on and on and on. But those are the things that I've learned along the way that helps me. So I convey to everybody, try to figure out what's going on with you, okay, when you're in a place and you feel uncomfortable, speech wise, and you feel uncomfortable in the environment, and then you find yourself stuttering more than you would like, or more than you thought you were going to stutter, or whatever.
yeah,
Figure out what's going on. Is it anxiety? Um, or you not comfortable with your content, or you tired, or you worried about something else? Where's your focus in your mind? Is your focus elsewhere? I mean, I used to focus on everything. When I went into a room, I used to focus on everybody in the room, everything except one basic thing. And that's the person that was in front of me, talking and communicating with that person. And
yeah,
that would get into and that would get in the way of me being able to be a good communicator. And so these are the things that I say. Do a lot of self-analysis as a person that stutters and figure out exactly what is going on with you, and then figure out what's out there to help with that. It could be, relaxation techniques. It could be doing meditation. Like I said earlier, it could be mindfulness. It could be yoga. It could be some other things. It could be, doing Toastmasters. If your confidence level is lower, if you don't feel that you have the right whatever, figure out what's going on.
yeah. I first and foremost want to say thanks so much for being transparent on some of the experiences that you've had with substance use too, because that's very important. I've seen in a lot of like social spaces with people who stutter where that is a topic of conversation, and it's very important to be self-aware of how these things affect you and if they want to be generally used as tools or not because they can lead to harmful roads and effects. I kind of actually want to take a step back and actually reiterate some of the points that you mentioned that I wholeheartedly believe into of just this identity piece. When we want to define identity, it's something that's often subjective, but it can overall be an overarching umbrella term for a lot of your life experiences, kind of what has brought you to this point in your life and journey. And with stuttering, that could be things that have that can be connotated as trauma, as positive, negative connotations and effects, things in this regards that kind of bring you to where you are now. And you kind of brought up a really good point of this self-image perception versus social identity perception too. And just to quickly like kind of explain that implicit bias is inherently within everyone. If you walk into a room, people will kind of think certain things about you based off of just markers of gender, age, height, skin color, clothing, like race, all these different things. So people will automatically have a perception of you and will kind of treat you very similarly to what these implicit biases tell them, regardless of how good intentions may be. And holding a self image of what you view yourself to be, that confidence, that values, those beliefs, things in those regards. If you understand yourself, and as you said, that confidence in yourself, you can truly bridge that connection and walk into opportunities that you can have the chance to self-advocate, kind of showing people how confident you are in things in those regards. So I really wanted to drive that point home because what you said was absolutely beautiful, full there and that introspection piece too, that understanding like how you behave and interact with the world, whether it be substance abuse, whether it be how you interact in parties, groups, social dynamics, things in those regards can be really powerful as a person who stutters. I think just in human beings in general, one of the most powerful tools we have is just that piece of introspection, that power to divulge like and dig deeper into our human behavior and create perspectives that kind of understand how we like interact with the world. Doug, seriously, thank you so much for your time. We are at time for this episode, and I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your story, your message, and kind of like leading to this vulnerability piece and aspects for today's message. Thanks so much for joining on this episode.
Thank you.